Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about economics and crypto and lots of other fun things. Happy July, everybody. Can you feel it in the air? Actually, I don't think many people can because they're asleep at the wheel, but I am telling you, things are looking good right now. And there's a lot of things, and I just wonder if there is something that's going to cause a pop in the market sometime soon. The stars seem to be aligning, and all right, let's slow down a little bit. Do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment in the comment section. But I want to start here with Louis Raskin. If you might occasionally hear me talk about him. He's a trader, a full-time trader who happens to moonlight as a content creator, but he's kind of inconsistent with his content creation because he just doesn't, he does so well at trading. So somebody who I very much pay attention to. So Louis Raskin says this: we have all seen coins tap to their resistance multiple times and then eventually explode above them once they finally crack. It is really only a matter of time before this happens with Bitcoin. And we are talking about a resistance, a level of resistance since 2017 in this picture. It will probably last a week or two and then top out, and then alts will move up hundreds of percentages. And honestly, hate to say it, but that will probably be the last big easy opportunity we have in a while. We'll see. We'll see. So what do we have here? We have multiple points of resistance since December of 2017 when Bitcoin almost hit $20,000. And then 2021, double tap of resistance. And then late 2024, early 2025, I guess you could call that a double tap of resistance. I think this is going to break. I think it's going to break to the upside. And what's a projection here? At least from Louis Raskin, we have $160,000 or $150,000 or so. You know, I've talked about the 2.618 retrace from the previous peak to the bear market bottom. That would put us around $155,000. And maybe, all right, I mean, just understand that this chart, it can take some time to play itself out. It might happen in July, it might not. But I mean, max pain for a lot of retail being asleep at the wheel happening in July. My goodness, what if that does happen? So I am now of the mindset that this is going to break to the upside. I've talked about being a bear for the end of 2025. As soon as the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 hit new all-time highs, I was 100% out of that mindset. And now I think we're going to break through this. And so I've talked about also, this cycle, Bitcoin has been taking the stairs up all the way from 15,000. What if it takes the elevator up, it shoots up sharply, and it's a really fun month or two for Bitcoin? Could that be enough for our altcoins that there's just has to be rotation out of Bitcoin into altcoins? We'll see, Some of you have mentioned Benjamin Cohen and his thesis that altcoin pairs have to go down to their previous bottoms. And maybe that's a scenario where Bitcoin explodes in price. But whatever the case, I am not a seller of crypto right now. By no means am I a seller of crypto at this moment. Let's move on. Oh, yeah. By the way, I forgot I was going to mention this. So Louis Raskin, he has this website, cryptoelite.com. He sells this course on here. It's by far the best course that you could possibly imagine. It's like 40 hours, more than 40 hours of amazing content. I went through it myself and I improved as a trader myself. I paid for it with my own money. And so, yeah, let me recommend it to you. I told him that I've been telling, some of you guys about this. And so he set up a referral code for me. I would get 10%. I think it's actually a little bit more than that of whatever if you were to buy this. But listen, again, I bought it with my own money. Okay, that's how much I believe in it. Is I recommend it. You can see a link in the description of this video. It's been in the description of this video. Just want to point that out. There's a link to this where you get 10% off of the course if you use my referral link. But let's move on. Pentoshi. I love this tweet here. And here's another one you've got to follow. He's one of my go-to people. I just like he doesn't tweet very much. He's worth 9 figures. But whenever he does tweet, I pay attention. So we're back to the whole double top narrative, right? People comparing this peak to the double top in 2021. And Pentoshi lays out the absurdity of that argument in a very clear way. And so let's read this real quick. I know many people really, really want this to be like 2021 for Bitcoin because they want entries. Mistakes have been made in allocation, but the difference is, and I remember this very well, the very day we topped in 2021, November 10th, 2021, CPI on that day had come in at an astronomical number, 6.9%. I remember that. We topped right there, and it was quite obvious at the time. We had runaway inflation, and the Fed would be forced to hike rates in the near future and potentially even begin QT. Markets would begin to go risk off. It's exactly what happened. This time, interest rates are high. Inflation is tamed. The U.S. is discussing, quote, outgrowing its debt. You can't compare these two situations because they aren't the same at all. The only similarity is on the chart where there was a dip, it took out the highs. But even these are no longer the same as previous. It took out the highs and then essentially immediately started a downtrend lining up with the catalyst. This time we continue to consolidate above the previous all-time highs while treasury companies go all in. This is a problem for a later date, but not today, IMO. So huge difference. 2021, we spent such a little amount of time above that previous high in April and May of 2021. This time around, we're just hanging out above the highs, especially right now. You know, we've been hanging out like between $107,000 and $108,000. We've been hanging out at this level for a solid week. That didn't happen in 2021, and we've spent a lot of time above that 108K peak from December, and the inauguration day peak. So, given everything else that's going on, the fact that we are still very high with rates, that really the only way to go is down. QT is nearing an end, things like that. Totally different environment. An environment for we were more risk off. Now we're heading more risk on. So let's do this. And of course, retail is asleep at the wheel. So Bitcoin retail investor, let's see the tweet from Quentin here. Demand hits a six-month low. So when's the last time that retail was this uninterested? It was, it was in the peak. Yeah, the reason why retail wasn't interested in December and going into January is because they wanted their altcoins, they wanted bigger gains. Now retail is uninterested because they're just defeated. Huge difference. But 6-month low in retail interest. Not a 6-month low at all in institution interest. Just keep that in mind. Next, I suspect that we're going to eventually from here get to a green zone on this chart and overbought period, a fairly long, pretty long overbought period. But let's see the tweet from Axel Adler. The Bitcoin distribution by realized supply metric shows how expensive Bitcoin currently is relative to what all holders have invested in it. Realized supply is the total dollar value of all Bitcoin calculated using the prices at which coins were last moved on the network. Ratio equals Bitcoin price divided by realized supply. This is essentially analogous to the PE ratio in stocks. The higher the ratio, the more expensive the current price. Compared to what people paid for Bitcoin, the market may be overbought. And the lower ratio, the market may be oversold. I'm going to skip a little bit there. Currently, the Bitcoin price is slightly above the annual ratio level, similar to November of 2024, when, before the rally from 74K to 107K, the ratio was also at this level. This means the coin is neither oversold nor overbought. The market is in a neutral zone. I consider that good news. You can see when it was oversold, it was when we went down to the 70s. When it was overbought, that first time we got up over $100,000. Lots of excitement in that market. Right now, it's neutral. The idea from here that we would go into oversold territory, it's possible given that it's the summer months, but it's unlikely. So what comes next is, in my opinion, likely a move to overbought territory as we break through the 7-year resistance. But we shall see. Let's move on. Now, this is just a very simple thing. I know it's just really frustrating thinking about Bitcoin dominance, waiting for it to come down. It'll come down eventually, and maybe we'll have a season or a moment, But What are we seeing here? We're seeing something that we haven't seen in the last year and a half at least, which is a bearish divergence on Bitcoin dominance. It's a good thing. So Bitcoin dominance did put in a higher high, got up to 66%, but Bitcoin dominance RSI has put in a higher low. So that's what you look for when you're trying to time bottoms or tops in this case. And so again, I mean, stars are aligning. I have no shame in just reminding you guys of the fact that I pay a lot of attention to only really one person to get his opinion on stuff, and that's the blockchain backer. Give him a follow on X on YouTube, the blockchain backer. And he's a proper moon boy right now. You just rarely ever see that from him. But right now, right at this moment, we had the ABC correction. And I've mentioned that. He is just all in. He's all in with this idea that altcoins are going to go much higher. It's hard for me, living in the moment at least, to get on board with that. But, I mean, we're seeing some signs. So, and here's another opportunity for us to just look at what the numbers are showing us, what the charts are giving us. It looks good. It looks very good. So let's move on. Bitcoin data. Interesting. This is something I found interesting. It was a thing that I just didn't know was a thing. Let's read this. No joyful June for altcoins, minus 7% for others, when he posted this at least. Or Bitcoin plus 3%, but AI Bitcoin miner stocks doing well alongside coin. So I didn't know there were AI Bitcoin miner stocks is kind of the thing that I'm thinking here. So IREN, don't know about that. Forgive my old man eyes, I can't read some of these. WGMI, I knew that one. CIFR, is that what it says? My goodness, my eyes are killing me. Whatever the case, there is such a thing as AI Bitcoin miner stocks. So something to do some research on. And they've been doing very well lately, just along with Coinbase. And listen, you want the ones that are doing well right now. I know it's tempting to buy the ones that you think like they haven't woken up yet. And I am talking about crypto, but I'm also talking about stocks. Ride the winners, okay? Not financial advice, ride the winners. I'm going to show you another tweet here in a second. And my communication to you would be to ride the winners. Don't worry about the losers right now. So, Guilherme Tavares, now onto the stock market. And this is very relevant to my Sunday video where I talked about what I'm seeing. So I showed you some 3-month candles. This is a chart looking at 6-month candles, and it really isn't all that much different. So Guilherme Tavares, enjoy the blow off top. Look, what have I been comparing right now to for the last several months? I've been comparing it to 1998. As soon as we started seeing those signs of a V-shaped recovery in the stock market, I have compared this period of time to 1998. Do you know what happened after 1998? We had a blow off top. We had a blow off top in the stock market. The next 6 months were massive. After that, I think that was the last 6-month candle in 1998. So we're like 6 months ahead in 2025, The next 6 months was pretty much, if you look on the 6-month candle at least, I mean, a big green bar, just a massive green bar. And then, the next candle after that was a solid green candle with a wick, so there was a correction, a dump, but, had a final finishing move to what amounted to 1999 being a blow-off top. I very much am now of the expectation that something similar is going to happen. This is a very bullish candle. I mean, just the amount of buying pressure on that wick. My goodness, that's beautiful, guys. It's just fantastic. So it doesn't make sense to me. It's the irrational finishing move of the market. I really do think we have another year of bullishness, at least in the stock market. And then we got to get a lot more conservative. But right now, I'm not very conservative, not at all. But let's move on. Hey, how about a global M2 S&P 500 comparison? It's not just for Bitcoin. David Marlin says it's all about liquidity. The SPX has been moving in sync with global week 2 on an 11-week lag, global M2, excuse me. It's signaling $6,800 for the S&P. I think the S&P is going to go higher than that, believe it or not. But 6,800 up only for the next couple months here. Yeah, that sounds about right. Given what we're seeing in the stock market right now, I don't think this is a double top. It could always be potentially a double top. I don't think so. So is this what's next? 6,800 S&P, $150,000 Bitcoin, maybe some significant altcoin moves. Will our patience be rewarded? I hope so. I really do. And what do you buy if you're in the S&P 500? A couple of recommendations here, not financial advice though. So here's the best performing stocks in the S&P 500 in 2025. And well, that's what Charlie Bielo is saying here. Now, you see, all right, NRG Energy, Palantir, Howmet Aerospace. I don't know all of these, but there's some big winners for 2025. DoorDash, Netflix, Uber, GE Aerospace, Dollar General, CVS. Here's my thought. Honestly, these are the ones you should be buying if you're going to buy stocks. Now, I'm really big into dividends right now, so perhaps for some of these I wouldn't buy them, or maybe I want to ride a hot hand. These top 20 here, and I own Mosaic, the Mosaic company, chemicals. What else? Oh, Newmont Corporation, metals and mining. I'm gonna have to look into that. But this is kind of where I want to park my dollars for the next year. Aside from the dividend stocks that I have, I want to pay attention to these. This is how you win. You ride the winners. If you remember, I shared a chart showing what would happen if you bought stocks only on days that they were at new all-time highs versus if you just blanket bought the S&P 500. What you would do is you would have been more of a winner if you bought the stocks literally only on their all-time high days. How does that work? Well, that you're not buying the losers. You're just having nothing to do with those. And you're just buying the winners. You're riding the hot hands. That seems counterintuitive to a lot of people, but that's how you do it. So, not financial advice. I'd be looking into some of those. And, okay, I don't know if I have $1,000 in dividend yet, but I really like this content here. Dividend investors should aim to get $1,000 a month in dividends ASAP. $1,000 is enough to help with some bills. It's enough to buy you a lot more stocks and ETFs monthly to compound fast. Here's 10 ETFs and how much you need to own to earn $1,000 a month. So Devo, I'm not familiar with Devo. JEPI, definitely familiar with that one, 9% yield. You need 1,851 shares or 105K invested. We got JEPQ. I'm stacking JEPQ, stacking it. Right now, 11.5% yield, 88K invested would get you $1,000 a month. We have SPYI. I don't have that one, 12.5% yield, 100K invested. GPIQ, another one I don't have. Man, I'm waiting. There's one that I'm waiting for, and I'm curious if he's going to mention it. So you need 121K of that. QDVO, never heard of it. 119K. Here we go. This is my bread and butter right here. QQQI. I've been buying a lot of this one. I want this to be my highest holdings, my number one holdings when it comes to dividend yielding ETFs. NEOS NASDAQ 100 high income ETF. I made a 2 to 3 minute video on this particular ETF on my new TikTok that's focused on stocks. Check that out if you haven't already. So QQQI. I have some OMA. It's a newer one, so I wanted to see how it goes. 15% yield. You need 80K invested. BTCI is another one that I have. I'm going to have that until I sense that that it's over, that we're going to be near a peak for Bitcoin. You only need $42,000 invested, 30% yield as of right now. And then, very high risk, but another one that if Bitcoin's going to do well, then this is a great one to have. MSTY. I actually just bought earlier today about 10 more shares of MSTY. So if you have 680 shares, only $15,000 invested as of right now, again, as of right now, you'd get $1,000 a month in dividends. So that's a risky one, though, a very risky one. But as long as Bitcoin's going to do well, then I think the returns are there and they're solid. So let's take a look at the charts here. Bitcoin, of course, hanging between 107 and 108. Eventually, we're going to break out. Man, Bitcoin Cash just looking so good. I noticed earlier today that XRP, XRP guys, it's looking there. You know, it's going to take some time to break through that 200-day moving average. Just like, you know, it bounced off of it as support a couple times. So I'm in a very low leverage long on XRP right now. I might close that soon, but that's a good sign seeing XRP. Ethereum I saw was over $2,500. We're heating up, guys. You know, just be a little bit more patient. And we're man, that looks very white coffee. You know, the spring there, Ethereum down to 20, was it 21? Wow, $2,130. I guess kind of blocked that out of my memory. That's a spring right there. You know, UTAD, spring, and then what happens next is a couple more weeks of grinding potentially, and then a breakout. I really think that's coming soon. So, like I said, things are looking good. Hang in there, guys. We may be having some fun pretty soon. But anyway, that is all I have for today. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful rest of your week, and I will most certainly be seeing you in another video. Peace.